Okay, so the idea I've got for an application is we're going to do a kind of a full clone of Booking.com. If anyone doesn't know what Booking.com is, it is a website that you can go to book everything from flights to hotels. I think we're going to go very much specifically to hotels. You can also do car rentals and a few other things, but we're going to go specific to accommodation. So, for example, if I'm traveling to Tokyo, Japan, I'm going to check in for a week in August, the Sunday to the Friday for 2 adults, and you click search. Booking.com will bring up all of the different components or all the different accommodations that are in that area in Tokyo, Japan, and it will give me the rates that I can go ahead and then book through Booking.com. I'm pretty sure most people have used it, but if you haven't, that is how it operates. That's pretty cool. Look at that Hotel Gracie Shinjuku. There's like a Godzilla on it. Definitely go to Japan. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's go back to Booking.com's main homepage. And we want something like this, and we're on the desktop version, right? So there is obviously a mobile app for Booking.com, but we want to create something similar. So how are we going to go about doing this? We could go very easily into Rork and say, create a clone of Booking.com, or we could say, create a accommodation booking website. But again, something to stress, when it comes to building something of value, something real, you want to keep in mind that you want to build feature by feature. You don't want to give it, or your AI coder, you don't want to give it too much information in one go because it gets confused, it can hallucinate, it can create things that you don't want, it can create security issues, and it's basically like when you go about cooking, right? If you're making a meal, you don't go about just throwing every single ingredient in. You might start off with some ingredients and then you add and you add and you add and you add, and by the end of the meal or end of the cooking, you've actually got a beautiful, beautiful dish because you've layered things into it. Okay, so, and you need to start with the correct ingredients first, right? The correct features first. So how do we go about doing this? Very, very simply, we're going to use a buddy of ours, ChatGPT. The reason I'm using ChatGPT in this course is because it's probably the most common, the most used LLM out there. You can go to ChatGPT right now and you can sign up for a free version. You get there is a daily limit also on the amount of questions you can ask ChatGPT on the free version, but it's like more than enough for what we want to achieve. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to come into ChatGPT and you're going to write in something like this, saying, I want to create a mobile app version of the website booking.com. And then we're going to do a little hyphen or dash. And you're going to come to booking.com and we're going to literally go ahead and copy the website, come to ChatGPT and paste it in. Then we're going to go down a line, okay? And we're going to say, can you give me a comprehensive and detailed PRD, product requirements document, to build this project using Rork.com. Let's just go over here, Rork.com. So there we go. I want to build it, now this is important, in native React language. So that is the language that Rork is built in, right? So build native mobile applications using AI and React Native. So you want to come over here and you want to make sure that you go React Native or native React, and that it knows that's the specific language you want to build it in, right? So our PRD is built in such a way, and that will allow us to gel into Rork much easier. So that's a little tip and trick to keep in mind there. Then we're going to add in here, I want the feature to be able to book accommodation to be included in the mobile application. Okay, so once we've done that, we're gonna hit enter. And now we've given it booking.com, we've told it to build it in native React, and we've told it to have a little bit of boundaries on we want to do it for accommodation only. ChatGPT is going to give us a good enough product requirements document that you can go about building something out similar. So we've got our product requirements document. We've got project title, booking app, mobile. It's for iOS and Android. iOS is the Apple App Store. Android is Google Play. Framework is the React Native using Rork.com. And the core feature, booking accommodation. So our product requirements document is used in industry by product managers. But you yourself are one of those. You are a product manager. You are building a product. Therefore, you're managing that product. So you should use a PRD. So not to say that you can't use all the tools we've been talking about for Lovable, Data Button, and all ways we've been able to start our applications. You can use those. You can use the GPT that I shared with you guys. You can use all those different things. But in this case, I found that this is the easiest way specific to Rork, right? This is a little tip and trick, a little method that I use for working in Rork. So now you're going to go ahead and say, create a mobile app allowing users to search, view, and book accommodations, so hotels, apartments. The app should replicate the core functionality of Booking.com with a clean, modern UX. What of our target users? Our core features. So we've got user authentication. So we want kind of our authentication, signups and logins and forgot passwords. Search and browse accommodations, accommodation detail pages, booking flow, my bookings. So if people have made a booking, they can view those current and past bookings. We have an admin feature on the Rork dashboard. So we'll be able to upload accommodation listings, set availability, set pricing, upload photos and amenities, so forth. We have non-functional requirements. So non-functional means kind of specifics to the performance. So fast load times under 3 seconds, mobile responsiveness, secure data storage, scalable backend architecture, GDPR compliance. So this is all about data and how data is used, offline support. So it's even used, some performance requirements, because that's important when it comes to mobile app. No one wants to use a mobile app that is slow. The tech stack to use. So here's some of our APIs, remember those. Our backend, front end, remember all of this that we covered when we started this course. So our front end is React Native. Our backend is Rork.com and some custom logic. Our APIs, we're gonna have Stripe so we can take payments, or PayPal. We're gonna have Mapbox or Google Maps in order to map out areas and different hotels in those areas. And then authentication, Firebase authentication or Rork native authentication to authenticate our users. And the database, we've got a Rork integrated database. So this is the same thing as like a Superbase or Firebase that we've covered in Lovable and or Databutton. And then we've got milestones and a timeline. So it's even saying this should take about 10 weeks. And these are the different milestones we can achieve. So if you wanted to really piece this together, get a whiteboard out in your office, map this out, and be like, cool, this is how I'm gonna build this over the next 10 weeks or 2 months or however long you want. And then post MVP ideas. These are some additional things we could focus on maybe once we've got our MVP, our minimal viable product, and we've got some assumptions here. So these are just basic assumptions around Rork.com, React Native, and just the mobile application in general. So I think that is a good enough document. The best thing you can do now is go ahead and copy this into a Word document or a file that you can save on like a Google Drive. So you've just got that handy. And if you build something similar to this in the future, you've got that as a kind of a base set premise, but it's so easy to just spin up in ChatGPT like we just did now. So we've got our PRD, and I'm going to move to the next step, which is actually getting our app kind of started. Okay, so we've got our PRD here. So what we're going to do is you're literally going to come to the top of your product requirements document, and you're going to go all the way to the bottom, right? I'm going to copy all of that. We're going to Control C, right? So just copy that. We're going to come to Rork. We're going to go to our little box over here. We're going to paste that in. So we've pasted that in, and we're going to go straight to the top. Now, this is super important. So above the entire thing that we've pasted in, the entire PRD, we want to be, again, specific, right? So we want to write in something along the lines of, I want to build this application one feature at a time. I want you to begin with the feature that is the home screen, where users would have the ability to search for an area, select the date of check-in and check-out. Finally, how many people will be staying at the accommodation. So those are basically the key things we need, right? So we've got an area, a date range, and a selection of individuals, right? Maybe we should actually just add in there, staying at the accommodation and the room required, number of required. Okay, so that covers our homepage. So we're saying we want a homepage with these 3 core components. That's our first feature we want. So we've saying, here's the entire PRD. Here's the idea for our application. So at least the AI knows about that. But then we're saying, take it a step back. Can we please start with the first one? And you can use, if you come back to our PRD, we can go through to our kind of milestones. Now, it doesn't align perfectly, so you would have to review these milestones. But again, the build search UI plus date guest filters is pretty much our week 2 component, because we set up Rork, our project there. So we're starting kind of here, and you can kind of piece together on your whiteboard, on your little notes that these are the features. This is my hierarchy of features, right? You can even ask ChatGPT, can you please create a hierarchy of features? What's most important? And then this, and then this. Give your input. You know, pop ChatGPT on voice mode. Put in AirPods or just leave it on voice mode. This little button over here, this little use voice mode, and go have a chat about this, right? Once you've created this, go have a chat to ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to build this application. What do I start with? What's the best thing to start with? What's feature number 1? What's priority feature number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5? Get to an idea of what are the main priorities. What should I build first, and then what, and then what, and then you build down the road. You close that feature. Now you've got like a little cool thing that's working, and it's agile rather than trying to piece together things all over the show, and it gets a little bit messy. On that point, I want to take a little bit of just a little bit of a pause here, and I want to explain why we're doing what we're doing. So there are 2 main approaches when it comes to building products, right? And I don't want to go into too much detail here, but one is the waterfall product or waterfall approach, and the other one is an agile approach. The difference here is, for example, think about building a car, right? And so with waterfall, it's saying we're going to build 1 wheel, then we're going to have 2 wheels, then we're going to have 2 wheels and the kind of shell of the car, and then finally 4, we're going to have a car that actually you can drive. Where Agile is saying we're going to start with a skateboard, then we're going to change it to a scooter, then we're going to change it to a bicycle, then we're going to change it to a motorbike, then we're going to change it to a car. And what's the difference between these 2, right, that you can identify? The biggest difference is that the Agile approach, something's always working, right? We've got a little mini product that we're building out into a big product, right? So we're going to start, again, we're going to talk about an MVP, minimal viable product. That is the skateboard. It still works. It operates. That's what we want to achieve. Then we'll improve it and improve it and improve it and improve it. And we eventually get to our kind of car level, high level, amazing application. But we want to start with that MVP. So always keep that in mind. Not to say that waterfall is wrong. I've just pulled the image off of Google. So it's not that waterfall is wrong. If that's your approach, that's your approach. But Agile's working a lot more these days. And it just, in my opinion, works a lot better because you're not sitting there with, there's a very big possibility you sit there with tons and tons of different applications that are all half done and half don't work, versus getting an MVP that you can ship out and people can start playing around with. And then someone might say to you, hey, can you add this feature to the application? Cool. That's when you can move into step 2, taking those features from people and their requests. And then you can build your scooter, then your bicycle, then your motorbike, and finally your car. Right? You can get to that point. You can have that roadmap to build to that, but always try and keep it. How do I make this functional? Okay, coming back to Rork, we've added in that little piece above our PRD. We're good to go now, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to click run. Now, you did see that there was a little image upload file here. So we could also upload some sample images, right? So if you have some sample images from booking.com that you want it to look like, or you go to dribble.com and you have a UI of how you want the application to look like, go ahead and do that, and we will cover that. But I wanted to just show you, if you go purely just based on the PRD and the starting point for our first initial point, what do we land with? What do we start with? And then we can go ahead and build that a little bit further. Okay, so you can see over here, it's done something a little bit different, right? So it said here, I'll help you build your home screen for your booking app, focusing on the search functionality with location, date selection, and guest room options. This is a great starting point for your app. So it's understood we want 1 feature. Now it's thought through a couple of things. For the home screen of the booking app, I need to create a search bar, a date picker, and a guest room selector. Great. Design inspiration, I'm just going to draw from booking.com, and Airbnb's clean interfaces. We didn't even mention Airbnb, but fair enough. So color scheme, I'll use a blue primary color similar to booking.com with white backgrounds. We can easily change this so we don't kind of look like an exact copy. And then what it's done here is I'll need to create the context for storing search parameters that can be used across the app. So it's done actually some research, you can see here. So it's Expo Date Picker, React Native current implementation, Expo Date Picker, compatibility. So it's actually doing some external research. It's basically like gone onto Google and searched, just like a little assistant would or developer would, in order to understand a topic in order to integrate it. And now you can see it's starting to build out our home screen. And very shortly, we should have a preview that we can actually test out and see how it goes. Okay, so we've got one potential issue. So let's check details. So click details. Found one minor TypeScript code issue that are like spelling suggestions in Word. You can ignore them if your app is working as expected. However, try to resolve them if something isn't working. Now, what I love about this from Rork is something that Lovable doesn't do, and what Debugging doesn't do is it will say you've got a TypeScript code issue. And if you don't have a technical background, you go, is that a bad, like a really bad thing? Is that not that bad of a bad thing? I don't know. But what's cool about Rork is it's actually giving you that kind of in plain English explanation. So it's saying, it's like a spelling suggestion in Word, right? So if you have a Word document, you've got a couple spelling mistakes, it's not going to really impact your Word document. So this is not a big issue. And it's explained it to us like that, which I love. And from especially coming from a non-technical background, and for people that aren't developers, this helps a ton. So what you're going to do is you're going to click try to fix again, try to fix all. And this will tell the AI, hey, can you guys go ahead and try and fix this for me, please? So that's going to load it up into our little box there. It's going to say, please fix the following errors, and then you just send that through. Okay, so it's fixed our error, and here you go. So we've got find your stay, where are you going? So we've got our search bar for our location. We've got our dates, right? So how many nights we want to stay, and we've got the guests and rooms. 2 guests, 1 room, and a search bar. We've got some popular destinations. We've got New York City, and we've got Paris in France. And then in terms of, this is our main homepage. In terms of the bottom little ribbon, got explore, bookings, saved, and profile. Very, very similar to, again, it looks like a mix of booking.com and Airbnb. It's got like the Airbnb minimal UI, and then it's got that booking.com kind of blue hue to some of the icons. So let's go ahead and see what we can do. So can we actually type something in? So if we go into it, so you can't actually type something in. Amounts of nights. We want to be able to book how many nights. So we're going to go from July 27th to July 27th to July. Let's try July 27th to July 31st. Okay, that works. How many guests? Maybe let's change that to 3. Let's change that to 1 guest in 1 room. And then obviously we want to be able to click the search bar. So the search bar needs to be fixed, and actually the area of where we're going, we can't type anything into that just yet. We can. It's a little bit buggy. So you have to like kind of double click. See, it's a little bit buggy. So that's something we would have to fix. But in terms of the homepage of what we requested, this is pretty much what we wanted. And this is a good starting point. If we go to our bookings, you can see your bookings. You have no bookings. Saved, save places. Your saved places will appear here. And then profile, sign in to manage your profile. You can't even sign in because we haven't created that profile page. And you might be saying to me like, Jagger, oh, but like, you know, the app we did just before this, it had like more functionality. Yes, it did. But the point of building out our application is feature by feature. We want to make sure one feature is completed and running before we move on to the next feature. Else it gets very overwhelming very quickly. And again, thinking about Agile and Waterfall approach, we take the Agile approach, we get the profile page working 100%. Then we can look at the profile page, and then we can look at the saved page, and then we can look at the bookings page. And we get all of that to work correctly very quickly. Your skateboard becomes your scooter, becomes your bicycle, becomes your motorbike, becomes your car. And that's the thought process around that. So we've got our profile page kind of good enough, and we can kind of carry on and keep building. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make a couple edits. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to list these out. So we're going to say number 1. Actually, we're going to say, please, can you make the following changes? You don't actually have to use please. I just find like I do it by habit. It's not even that it actually works good. So just say, can you make the following changes? The first one is we're going to say, I want to be able to type in the where are you going search bar and type in the city I want to travel to and stay in order to get an applicable hotel. Okay, that is the next biggest thing we want. So we're going to say, please can you make the following changes? We're going to make that change there, and we're going to send that through. Cool. So now Rork is going to say, cool, I'll help you make the search bar functional so users can type in the cities to search for hotels. Let me first examine the current search bar implementation and then make it interactive. So great, I can see that the search bar component is already functional and allows users to type in cities. Let me also check the search store to understand how the location data is managed. Now let me check the types to understand the location interface. Perfect, the search functionality is already implemented and working. Now it's going to look at the current search bar functionalities, available cities. So we've got some sample cities over here that we can use. We obviously want to actually potentially use an API to have more cities in the future. And then it says here how to use. So tap on the where you go in search bar. So now it's updated this. So let's see. Okay, now start typing. So let's see, new, see it's not doing that, right? If we tap on there, it goes blue, but then nothing works. So that's what we want to say. When I click on the where are you going search bar, it turns blue for a second. And then when I type in the city, nothing happens. So we're gonna just give it that, and we're gonna send that through. Now it's gonna understand, okay, let me look at the actual search bar functionality, because it might look from the back end code that, oh, this is working. But if obviously from the front end it's not working, there's a misalignment somewhere. Okay, so it says here, the issue might be that the search results drop down is not showing properly, or there might be an AZ index issue. Let me make some improvements to ensure the search functionality works properly. So it's making some changes. Okay, so now it says the search functionality should now work properly. When you tap the search bar, it should focus and show start typing to search for destination. Okay, so it does, but it only comes up for like a second, right? So start typing to search for destinations. I'm holding down on my cursor. Okay, so you see that's what it's causing, right? So if we go ahead and type in New York now, then we can select it. But you have to click down on your mouse in order to bring that up, which is not what we want. So we're gonna say here, when I click on the search bar, it does come up with the message. You can literally just copy this message over here, but only for a second before disappearing again, and I cannot type in anything. We can also add in here, when I hold down, when I click and hold down on my mouse, when I click and hold down, I am able to type in the city, and I do get the drop down, but that is not user friendly, and it should work when I only click the where are you going search bar once. So we've said to it, this is what we want to achieve, this is what's not working, and this is what we don't want. And that should be good enough. Now you see I'm typing quite a bit. Again, we've covered the tip and trick of the voice dictation tool. So something like Aqua Voice or kind of Flow Whisperer on Mac. There's a bunch of others that can help speed along the process a lot more. I could be using it. I just want to show you guys real step by step and go through these. But you know, if you're building out this while we're doing this course, you know, use a voice dictation tool. You can just kind of click the button and kind of talk through your issue, and you'll achieve that a lot quicker than I did right now. So it's a little tip and trick there that you should keep in mind. So it says, okay, I'll help you fix the search bar issue. Let me first examine the current search bar component. I can see the issue. The problem is on the onBlur handler. When you tap the search bar once, it focuses and shows the results, but then immediately blurs or loses focus and hides the results after 200 milliseconds. This is causing the flickering behavior you're experiencing. So that's good. The issue is that the text input is losing focus too quickly, likely due to the layout or touch handling. Let me fix this by adjusting the blur handling and making the search bar more responsive. Okay, so this is looking hopeful. Hopefully this fixes the problem. Okay, I had to do one last still not working before it actually gave us this final component here, which says, or this final message, says the search bar should now show the results immediately when you click and start typing. Keep the results visible when you're selecting from them, and allow single click interaction without requiring click and hold. Properly handle focus and blur events. Okay, so if we click on where you're going, okay, cool. So we see start typing where you want to go. Okay, so we've got that where you're going, and if we type in New York, okay, cool. So now we can select, say, New York for those dates. Again, let's go from the July 27th to July 30th. Let's go for one adult, apply, and we click search. Now I've got a little search bar loading, and obviously no search results pop up because that wasn't part of the initial ask. Awesome. So we can now move on to our next piece, but that just kind of showed a little bit of the error handling that we'll have to go about doing. And again, it's about us focusing on one thing at a time. Even if it's errors, even if it's bugs, we can fix those bugs and errors and then move on to the next thing. We're not focused or worried about the search, or once we get the search results, any bugs on that page. Because if we ask it just to create some general application, we'll have the search results already, which looks awesome. It looks like, in one prompt, we've got a whole application, but there might be tons of these little bugs all around, which we need to work through as a product manager, as building, our application. And we need to use AI to help us do that, but we need to be able to do that in a kind of systematic way, in a step-by-step manner. Have your whiteboard or have your little notes with your timeline, and as you accomplish this feature, you mark it off and it's done and there's no more bugs and you can move on to the next step, right? So even with the dates, you could, if you wanted to really go ahead and once we click the check-in date, you can see it doesn't go blue, it goes like white and you can't really see it. You could fix that UI component so that it works better that way. So just keep that in mind. We want to work through things step by step, even if it comes down to bugs. And dealing with bugs and debugging is a very simplistic way. Just explain the issue, explain what you want to achieve, and the AI is smart enough to work with you on that. Even if you ask at the end, like I did, it's just still not working. Please, it's still not working. You say it's fixed, but it's not. And spend some time on that and fix those bugs so we can close those features and move on to the next one. Okay, so that's our search component, right? So now we want to show the result of that search component. That will be feature number 2. So what we want to do now is say, okay, that is working. Let's work on the search results page / feature now. And we're going to say, I want you to create the search ability, and once clicked, you showcase the search results page with the list of applicable hotels. Please include, now this is important, all the details as listed in the original PRD I provided. So we've said, I want you to create the searchability, and once clicked, you showcase the search results page with the list of applicable hotels. Please include all the details as listed in the original PRD I provided. So we've given the original PRD, remember, we said start with the first feature, but the PRD saves there. So it has that full knowledge of what we want to accomplish. So now you're saying, okay, let's move on to the next feature, but go back to the PRD and pull the details that you need in order to accomplish it. So we're not sitting there going, okay, create a search results page and each hotel should have this, and then we're trying to go back to booking.com and going like, okay, what did the results look like if we say if we go with like Tokyo, Japan, and we go here and we say, okay, there's a name, and then there's a picture, and there's a description, and there's the price, and it's overwhelming. So here, just say, go back to the PRD, pull those details, show me the results of the search, and that really reduces the amount of effort that you have to put into. So let's send that through. It says, I'll create the search results page with hotel listings based on your PRD requirements. Let me first examine the current structure and then implement the search functionality. So it's read through all of those. Then it said, now let me check the types and create the search results page. Doing that, now I'll create the search results page and update the necessary files. First, let me create the hotel types and the mock data. So it's giving us some synthetic mock data. Okay, so you can see it's actually bringing in a lot, and it's making a lot of different changes, bringing in a lot of information. And that's very much due to our PRD document being as thorough as it is. Else it would just be like, cool, you want this? Here you go, here it is. So it's actually said here, the search results page features that have been implemented. There's core functionality, hotel card details as per the PRD, sorting, filtering, user experience, technical implementation. Remember all the things we went through in the PRD? It's all there. Okay, so now it says the search results page now provides a complete booking app experience with a beautiful hotel card, sorting capabilities, and all the essential information users need to make booking decisions. Users can search from the home screen and see the relevant accommodations with pricing, ratings, and amenities. So let's go ahead and let's click search over here. Now it says searching for accommodation, and boom, look at that. New York from July 27th to July 30th. Here we've got the Grand Plaza Hotel, Budget Inn Express, cozy downtown apartments. Here, and again, if you look at booking.com, everything we'd have to specify is there. We've got the title or the name of the hotel. We've got the current ratings. We've got the address. We've got how far it is from the city center. We've got a couple of features, number of reviews, how much per night, free cancellation, the total amount, 4 hour, 4 nights. And then we've got a couple other options over here. That is pretty much hands down exactly what we wanted. Okay, cool. So that's feature number 2. Next up, what we want to do is be able to click into one of the hotels or any of the hotels and see the full details of the hotels, right? So come back to booking.com and we clicked on this first one over here. It should load up a page with all the information about that hotel, right? More information, a description, kind of property highlights, all the different amenities, different rooms, all that type of stuff. So if we come back over here to Rork, we can say this is exactly what I wanted. So we also list praising the AI a little bit to say, yeah, this is going down the right path. And now we say, next, can we please work on the hotel details screen when a hotel is clicked on from the list. I want you to ensure that all details from the PRD are considered. And then we're gonna also add in here, do not diverge from the PRD and create anything other than what is asked of you. If you are ever confused or need clarification, please ask me first before implementing anything. Okay, so we've said, let's go ahead and do feature number 3, keep it to the PRD document. And we've added a little bit of a component here just to say, a little message here to say, make sure that you follow the PRD document, because we've looked at the PRD, right? The one we had on from ChatGPT, and we've said, we're happy with this, right? Because you can also copy this and you can make some changes yourself. But we're happy with this. So let's stick with that. Let's keep it consistent. And if from an AI perspective, there's any clarification needed, ask some questions first of myself before we implement anything. Cool, so we can send that through. So it says here, I'll create the hotel details screen according to the PRD specifications. Let me first examine the current project structure and then implement the hotel details page with all the required features. Now I'll create the hotel details screen according to the PRD specifications. I need to update the search results and navigate to the details page and create the new hotels details screen with all the required features. Cool, so it's gonna go about building all of that according to what we specified in the PRD. While that loads, one thing I want to quickly chat to you guys about over here is on pricing. Pricing for Rork, right? They have a junior version, which is what I'm currently on here, $20 a month, 100 messages monthly, private projects, code editor, GitHub integration, email support to Rork. You can go to the $50, 250 messages monthly, and then so forth. I honestly find that if you're building out your own little like tools and apps, the junior works perfectly. It's 100 messages monthly. If you are doing a lot of developments, maybe the $50, but I've yet to find a need to go beyond that. So for $50 a month, you can honestly build massive, awesome applications. And part of this course, like I've said, is to show you Lovable, Databutton, Rork, and I wish I could show you a lot more, right? So the ability to show you these and you can kind of test them out through this course, and you can see how they work, and you can try out the free versions, and then you can make a decision and say, you know what, I really like mobile application development with Rork. I really like Databutton because it gives me that kind of step-by-step breakdown of those features, and that works better for me in my workflow. So part of this course, a big component is to showcase all of these to you so that you can make that kind of informed decision on what works best for you. Okay, so we've got some changes happening. It's still editing and setting up all the screens. So we're just gonna have to wait for that, and then we can jump into the results and check them out. Okay, so it's also saying here that I need to check the colors file and fix the TypeScript error. Now, also, the more you do some AI coding, you can't help but pick up on some coding words and knowledge and terms. So something like TypeScript, right? Remember when we had the error before where it said it's like a spelling error in a Word document? So when you see TypeScript going forward, you're like, oh, okay, that's not that big of an issue, right? So you also get a little bit of knowledge in coding just by going through this, which I find helps a ton. So that being said, we've got hotel details screen features implemented. We've got the core features from the PRD. So we've got image carousel, title, rating, review count, location, amenities, availability calendar, price breakdown, so forth. We've got some additional features, share and favorites, expandable sections, responsive design, technical implementation, which is just keeping to mobile UX, visual design, TypeScript, all that. And that should be there. So hopefully when we click on Grand Plaza Hotel, we actually go to the full Grand Plaza Hotel. Okay, and let's click. Cool. Okay, there we go. So now we've got Grand Plaza Hotel, 4.5 stars. We've got all of our information about the property, which you could probably improve. Amenities, we've got over there. The restaurants and bar probably need little icons. You can see that's an issue there. Availability, price breakdown, taxes and fees. There should definitely be taxes and fees. At cancellation policy, reviews. Got some kind of fake reviews at the moment. See all reviews. Oh, you can actually see more reviews, see less reviews. That's cool. That works. $180 per night. And then we've got a book now button. And it actually says here, when they tap book now, it will navigate to the bookings flow, which would be the next feature to implement. So it's actually saying to us, hey, this is the next feature you guys should implement, which is helpful. But yeah, look at that. That is our full page for our hotel. And obviously all the stock images are exact same, so you'd want to maybe use some more images. If we come back down over here, we click Budget in Express. Again, it works. That's awesome. It's different. It's $65 per night, so that's worked. And if we come to our last one, Cozy Downtown Apartment, that one also works, $95 per night. And that's our full page, right? So you can like it. Also, you can share it. Obviously, the share doesn't actually work externally for now, but it's starting to come together. And this is the beauty of doing feature by feature implementation, because we would then look, for example, and you might be saying, Jagger, you're skipping over some of the things I want to change. Like, why can't we add icons for restaurants and bars? You can go there and say, hey, the restaurants and bar amenities don't have an icon. Can we please have an icon for them? And you can fix all these errors on each page. But these are small little things that you can really dive into, right? You can use 21st.dev. Remember the UI component library we were talking about that we've covered? You can use that, and you can maybe say, implement this code. I want these icons used. You can change it up, and you can work through all of these bugs or enhancements, little features as part of your massive feature that you want to then close off. And then on your whiteboard, I always say whiteboard because I've got one here, you then can close off the massive features, and you can say, okay, this is how far my app is, and this is where I want to go next. So next for us would be the book now, and to be able to actually navigate to the booking flow. Okay, so I know we said book now would be the next feature that Rork is telling us to implement, but I'm actually thinking about it, and I feel on the homepage, we want to be able to have this specific to our users, right? So we want to do our sign up and our login, our authentication, which is super important. So we want to write something along the lines of, before we move on, I think it is important that we implement authentication to the application. I want a full authentication flow with sign up and login pages that will also then lead to a profile page that is fully complete according to the PRD requirement. Now, another little tip and trick is when you submit your application to be placed onto the App Store, there are specific guidelines and requirements that we have. So you could build out this entire application, deploy it, send it through for review by the Apple iStore or the Google Play Store, and then they can turn around and say, okay, well, we're rejecting your application, because you have to get approved to be put on the App Store, right? They could reject it because of specific components. So what you also want to highlight, you want to say it is vital, or like imperative, that you design these requirements in accordance with the iOS, which is from Apple, right? That's the operating system, development centers requirements, including any terms of service or development detail that need to be included when it comes to authentication. So you want something along the lines of that, because we want to make sure that Rork is developing our application, especially things like authentication, which is you're now taking in personal identifiable information, PII, of people. So you want to make sure that you're developing this in accordance with specific requirements. And the iOS Development Center is the guys who are going to review our application when we submit it to them. So we want to make sure that they are happy. So once we've got that, let's hit that and let's send that through. So it says here, I'll implement a complete authentication flow with sign up, login, and profile pages according to iOS development guidelines and the PRD requirements. Let me first examine the current project structure and then create the authentication system. So I'll now install the necessary packages for authentication and create the complete authentication flow. And now it's going about doing that and creating that authentication context and all the different types. You can even see here, it said here, now let me fix the apostrophe issue in the sign up screen, or the sign in screen. So it's actually picking up on issues as it's developing. So it's not just stopping whenever it runs into a problem, which is what I've found has been over the last few months. These no-code builders, not just Rork, a lot of them have improved tremendously in that way. A few months ago, you would be hit with tons of errors. As soon as an error came up, it would stop development and say, hey, there's an error. Do you want me to help you fix it? And you can get stuck in this kind of loop. And you'll actually found during this course, we haven't had a lot of errors, mainly because we've got the AI that's been working on all of these errors in the background for us. So, and it's probably going to just get better and better. So by the time you might be using this course, you might not have any errors, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so it's finalized. It says authentication features implemented, complete authentication flow, sign up, full registration with first name, last name, email, password, required terms and privacy agreements, sign in, forgotten password, session persistence, then iOS development compliance. This is important. Terms and service and privacy policy require checkboxes during sign up, right? So when you sign up, you actually click, I agree to terms and service and I agree with the privacy policy. Because if we don't have that, when we get to deployment, like I mentioned, we're going to get the app turned back to us and say we've rejected it because you guys don't have this in place. Then data protection, proper handling of user data with GDPR compliance mentions. Just so you know what that is, if we go GDPR there, General Data Protection Regulation. This is very heavy in the EU, but there are obviously some other guidelines when it comes to personal data. So wherever you're developing your application from, in whatever country, there's going to be at least regional or country-specific regulations that you have to meet. And then secure storage, password security, that's important. Strong password requirements, very important from an audit standpoint. Profile management, security features, user experience, authentication context, and then the authentication system is now fully integrated into your app. Users can sign up with proper validation terms agreements, sign in with email password, reset forgotten passwords, view and edit their profile, access account settings and support, securely sign out. All screens follow iOS guidelines or design guidelines with proper navigation, form validation, and user feedback. The system is ready for production use and can be easily extended with additional features like social login or email verification. So this just means social login, like you can sign up with Google or Facebook or like your Apple ID. Email verification means at this point in time, remember on Lovable where we had to go to Superbase and say you had to turn the email verification off so you didn't have to confirm your email when you sign up. This just has that without it at this point, and we can add that when we deploy it, right? So we don't have to verify emails in order to just test the application out. Okay, so it's finished, but we do have one error while running the app. So let's go ahead and click on the details. These are critical runtime errors that are causing your app to crash or not work as expected. Try to fix them to get your app running smoothly. So this is super important. We want to definitely focus on that. So let's send through that error gets fixed. So you can see, let me examine the auth context file first. I can see the issue. The error is occurring because the Expo store, a secure store, has a different method. The correct method is not being used. However, looking at the code, it's already using the correct method names. This suggests there might be a web compatibility issue. So it's going to work on that component for us, which is good. Again, don't let errors scare you. Errors are part of the game. They're always going to come up. Read through them, understand them as best as you can, and then very easily they will be completed and fixed by the AI. Okay, so it looks to be fixed. So let's try and go to our profile page. So we've got our profile page. Cool. So now remember we had nothing. Now we have sign into your account, access your booking, save properties, and manage your travel preferences. So let's create an account. So let us add in our details. So I'm Jagger, add in my surname, Belagata. Let's add in, let's just do any email address, j.b@gmail.com, and let's do a password. Oh, let's do another password, confirm, and then again, here we have terms of service. I want to actually see if we click on that. Okay, so we've got the ability to click on I agree with terms of service or I agree with privacy policy. It hasn't actually created those for us, but you can also go online and you can go and basically put your own privacy policy together because it's going to have to be specific to your app. There's a lot of templates out there, and I'm pretty sure if you use ChatGPT, you'll be able to put together a privacy policy in terms of service specific to the app that you're building. You can also see here by creating an account, you acknowledge that you have read and understood our terms and service and privacy policy. Your personal information will be processed in accordance with the applicable data protection laws, including GDPR, which is very, very useful and helpful when it comes to submitting this to the Apple iStore as well as the Google Play Store. Cool, so let's create an account. It actually popped up there with that. So there, our account should be created. There we go, email not verified because we'll verify that at a later stage. And here's our full profile page. So we can go ahead, if we click on there, okay, we can't add a profile picture, so that's an item we'd want to work on. Personal information, we've got account, notifications, payment methods, account settings. So if we go payment methods, account settings, notifications, those all need to be able to be clicked into. Help Center as well. Sign out as well doesn't work. We want to be able to sign out. We can't sign out at the moment. And we can go ahead and edit. We can add in our phone number, date of birth. That's helpful. Okay, so we at least have the ability to create profiles and then sign in. We can't sign out. We'd have to work on that. But like I said, you can take that feature, now break it up into little steps, work on those steps, close the feature, ship it. Does it make sense? I hope it does, because that's the main component I want to get across here. Okay, so now we've been able to create our profile, sign in. We're going to be able to sign out, but you can work on all of those items. We signed in. We can go through to our search bar. We can search for, say, New York. We can search for that one day for 2 guests. We can find our accommodation. We can click on it, and then we go click book now. The screen doesn't exist. Go to your home screen. Okay, so let's go out. We've got an oops page. Come over here. When we click book now, we want to be able to load up the booking page. Remember the initial one that Rork told us that should be the next feature. We're now going to go and look at that feature. Now, another thing we can use, right, is if we go to booking.com, right, we come through to this. Let's actually go and find a place in New York, right? So let's go to New York. Let's do it for the same kind of dates. Let's go today to tomorrow. 2 children, 2 adults, 1 room. Let's search for that. Let's go Fairfield Inn. Okay, cool. Now over here, you would come down to, right, I'll reserve. So let's click, okay, 1 room, I'll reserve. So once you've clicked I'll reserve, it should take you to this page over here, into your details. And then we want to go all the way down to, so that we can get to our payment details. So what I want to do is I want to actually come and make this smaller, not too small, but something like that. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a screenshot of this, right? So maybe up until that point there. And then I'm going to quickly just fill in all these details so that we can basically move along to the next page. Okay, so it's come to the next page, and now this is our payment page, right? And the reason I want to do this is I want to show you, if you go ahead and then take a screenshot of this on booking.com, right? We grab something like that. We can now use that as the base for our application, right? So we're going to come back to Rork and we're going to actually add in something along the lines of, let's go back to the booking of an accommodation or booking of a hotel and work on the booking, processing, and payment page. I want you to work on the actual booking of the hotel once I click on the book now button. I have attached 2 images of what I want the page to look like. Okay, so once we've done that, you can go ahead and click this little attach image, and you can go ahead and attach those 2 screenshots, right? So this is another way for us to indicate how we want something to look, right? So we have our PRD, we want to keep it within the PRD, but we also might be like, okay, there's a lot of details when it comes to payments, right? And information that we want to include. So if it's easier for you to do this, you can go and look at what you want to build, look at one of your competitors, and literally, I don't say it's stealing, I say just go ahead and use them as inspiration. And you do that by taking screenshots and including that. We don't want to inspire the actual user interface. We want to inspire just the components that are used, which will be used on any payment screen, if that makes sense. So once you've got that, we can go ahead and click enter. Okay, so it says, I'll create a comprehensive booking flow with payment processing based on the images you provided. Let me first examine the current project structure and then implement the booking pages. Now I'll create the booking flow with multiple screens based on the images you provided. I'll create the booking details page, payment page, and the confirmation page. Okay, so now it says here the changes I made. Added platform import to detect the current platform. Updated our load stored authentication, clear authentication, update profile. Okay, so it's got our features implemented step-by-step process, your selection, your details, and a finished booking, so payment and final confirmation. Hotel summary section, a booking details card, check-in and check-out dates or times, total length of stay, pricing summary in AUD, that's Australian dollar because I'm in Australia. Currency, that's actually interesting that did that and picked that up. But anyway, currency conversion notes, detailed price information and hide details functionality, guest details form, payment form, navigation, and this should hopefully match the screenshots you provided. So let's see if this works. So we've got our Grand Plaza Hotel in New York and we're going to click the book now button. Okay, so let's go ahead and try and maybe reload this and see now if this might work. Okay, so let's try and search for New York for 1 day. Search on Plaza, book now. Okay, there we go. So your booking details, that's pretty good, man. So we've got the little summary up there. Booking details, check-in, check-out, 1 night, change of selection. You selected 1 room for 2 adults. Your pricing summary in AUD includes taxes and fees. In property currency was USD, so it's actually converted, which is awesome. City tax, interesting. Pricing information, I can hide those details. Save 10% or more on this when you sign up for geniusbooking.com's loyalty program. Okay, cool. If we wanted to add our own loyalty program there. Enter your details. So if we go ahead and popped in all of our details, let's just go ahead and put in some details there. Put in our phone number. Okay, cool. I'm the main guest. Are you showing for work? No. Continue. Now we get to our payments. So over here, when do you want to pay? Pay when you stay. Pay now. We'll pay when we stay. New card, Google Pay, PayPal. Okay, we'd have to probably configure PayPal and Google Pay. You do consent, I consent over there. So new card, complete booking. Okay, cool. So now we would go ahead and say complete booking and then be able to process the card and finalize our booking. So what we want to do is we want to be able to say, I want to be able to enter in my card details and make the booking confirmation display. Okay, so it's adding that component there. Okay, so I'll help you implement the card details entry and booking confirmation functionality. Let me first examine the current booking page to understand the existing structure. So, okay, so we've got this key features implemented, enhanced card input system, payment processing flow, booking confirmation screen, enhanced user experience, card validation functions. Okay, so what we want to do is if we go over here and say complete booking, again, we might need to reload this page. So just keep in mind that if something doesn't seem to be working, hit that reload page so you get back to a live state and then try again, because I've found that that works quite well. Okay, so let's try this again. So let's try New York for those times. Let's click on the first one there, book now. Let's pop in all of our details. Cool. Phone number. Cool. I'm the main guest. Are you traveling for work? No. Continue. Consent to that card. Complete booking. Okay, it's processing. Cool. And then that's when it would take in your card details and we get this booking confirmed functionality that comes in, and we've got our actual booking and a booking ID. So that's all working. Obviously, you want to actually integrate, and we've shown how to integrate Stripe. So you would go ahead and say, I want to integrate Stripe, integrate that into your application in order to actually take details or take payments. So once we've got that, you can view my bookings. We want to be able to view our bookings over here. Remember, we have to work on that page, but we have the ability to book, to actually have those bookings and to make those bookings, which is pretty awesome. Okay, so next up, we want to actually bring in some real data. And for that, we're going to be using an API. Which API are we going to be using? This one. It's called Lite API. It's the fastest way to build travel apps. So if you're actually building a specific travel app, this is the way to go. Easiest thing to do, just click get started and sign up. Okay, just sign in. Okay, so in the overview of the documentation for Lite API, you can see here, it's a guide that provides all the information for you to integrate with Lite API. Lite API is designed to be easy to use and highly efficient, and you can focus on building great features for your users, which is what we want to be able to do to bring in actual real data. Currently, we're using mocked up data within our application. So what we want to do, if you look at the key features here, they have an extensive hotel database of thousands of hotels worldwide, which is what Booking.com provides. And that includes the description, amenities, photos, all of that. Real-time availability and rates, secure payments, so they'll facilitate the payments for us as well, so you don't have to even worry about that. And then they've actually got some API documentation here, and there's a little bit of a graph that shows you kind of how it works with our app, kind of pull the information, the response we get, kind of JSON data, which will then formalize into how we showcase that information. So the first thing we want to do is actually get the API key, add it to our application, and verify that it's working. So what first you want to do is come to your Lite API, sign in, come to the developer tab, come to API, and then you're going to come to your sandbox, right? We're going to add a credit card when we do a production level, right? So once you do this at a production level, you can use that. But they've also got API keys just for the sandbox. A sandbox is a play around environment. It's not a real environment, but allows you to test, right? So it's kind of a testing environment. What you're going to do is you're going to come through, you're going to grab your API key, but where are we going to put this? We're going to put this, if we come back to our app and you go to integration, you come to environment variables, right? Environment variables, if you go click here and say add variable, add the key, and you can add the value. So we can call this, for example, Lite API key, and then the value is going to be the value that we actually pull. You're going to copy your private API key here, sandbox environment, so that's okay. And then basically save that. And now it's saved over there. But we want to validate that it's actually working. So the way we do that is we come through over here and we write something along the lines of, okay, so now I want you to connect to API called Lite API. I have added API to environment variable. However, please do not use the API in the actual app itself. Rather, I want you to create a sort of test button / view where I could click to test if the API connect is working in a very simple manner, such as once I click a test button. So we're going to send that through. So basically what we're going to do is we're saying we've added the API key to the environment variable. So it is there, but we want to validate that it's working before we go and say, okay, let's use it, because we can go ahead now and say, let's use it, and then it's not working and we run. So it's just a little bit of a step-by-step process in order to validate that. You can do the same thing with Lovell. You can do the same thing with data, but verify that an API key is actually working. And then when we produce this, when we put this into production, we can just ask the AI to remove that test functionality for the API. Users don't care to actually test if the API is working. It should just work. But for us, in this kind of environment, we want to see if it's first working, deal with any errors, and then we can go ahead and the next step. So you can see over there, it's actually said, it's set that up for us. So we've got the features, how to use, what the test does, the results, so what a success would be, what success wouldn't be. And now we've got Code Expector running, and that should be complete. So if we go to our home page, okay, we're in the profile section now. Okay, so here's our developers tool, test Lite API connection. Let's click that. Okay, so when we click that, I'm not seeing anything happen. So I see the button now, but when I click on it, I don't see the results of the actual test to understand if it is working. Okay, let's send that through. Let us work on that. Okay, I can see that the API test function is already implemented and shows results in an alert dialog. The issue might be that the results are shown in the console and the alert might be too brief. Let me enhance the display to show more details and persistent results. Yeah, because that's exactly what we want to see, right? Is the actual result to see if we're doing what it states over here, right? So if we're actually pulling this information, right? So we should get data, right? A bunch of hotel IDs, which would map to what we eventually see on our actual application. And that will flow through via this get method. Remember the get method from our workflows? Very similar. So we have a get method to pull in that information. Okay, so we've got some updates here now. If we go test Lite API connection. Okay, API test failed, code 0.1, okay, unauthorized. All right, so let's go ahead and let's check why. API test says it failed. Can you tell me why that? Okay, so it's doing some external research to check why it may have failed. Okay, so you can see there it says prefix with expo public to make the variable available on the client side. We've done that, so let's try and retest. Okay, so we get another type of error. Network failed to execute JSON on response. Okay, so now we got an error here. Let's send that error through and let's see if maybe that's an error just from a JSON perspective. So the API might actually be working. It might just show us an actual error not related to the API. Okay, so I'm going to remove expo public because we actually don't want this client side. So we're going to just go with Lite API key. Save that. And now let's try and reload this and let's see if it works a little bit better. Okay, so let's try to test this again. API key not configured. Okay, so one of the things we have to do first is we have to come to the back end in order to secure those API keys and store them. We have to enable our backend integration. So that's one thing we have to do before, and that's why we're not being able to actually save the API key every single time. So you can see it says there, I'll help you enable backend for this project. Let me start by installing the required dependencies and then set up the backend infrastructure. Okay, so our backend is up and running, ready to use. So let's try again and try this API connection. So that's enabled. Our API key is stored. Let's go and just reload this connection. Okay, so it's reloading our application. Should have our backend, which is storing our environment variables, which includes our API key. Okay, cool. So if we go to our profile now, let's create this account again. Cool, let's go to profile. Let's come down to test API connection. Okay, so it took a little bit of debugging, but pretty much this is what I did. We go to integrations, our backend is enabled, and environment variables needs to be set to Lite API key, not expo public, because that'll be available on the client side, and we're actually storing this in the backend, so it's server side. So it'd just be Lite _API _key, and then we would copy our sandbox key from Lite API from the website into this over here. I've also moved the actual testing of the API key button to the homepage because you don't have to be signed into your profile. And that just was taking so long. So we've got test Lite API key connection over here. And once we click on that, API test results, there we go, success. So you can actually see here, success, Lite API connection successful, status 200, data preview, and we've got different countries, right? So what does AF mean, AG, AI, and these are all the different countries. And it's just a test level of data that is coming from our API key. Remember, we've got our API key is like a little gateway into a third party. So in order for us to basically bring in real booking data, so like hotels, availability of those hotels in different cities around the world, we're not going to hold a database or an Excel spreadsheet of them. When you use an API key, the guys on the side of Lite API, they maintain. So we don't have to care about maintaining the list of hotels. We just pull the data via our API key. And we can use their test sandbox environment now, so it's completely free. If you go production level, then you'll obviously pay just as much as we did with OpenAI. You would pay for those credits as well with Lite API. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and say, okay, test is working. That's great. Now I want you to connect home screen to the API. But please note, I need you to specify which endpoint, don't stress, I'll explain what an endpoint is in a sec, that is needed to do. Basically, when a user clicks on the search button, I need you to show a relevant list of hotels on the hotel page with data via API. Okay, so while that's going, an endpoint is that the API has that key. We're creating an endpoint to connect to that data. So I need to understand, remember when we spoke about webhooks, they were like a mailbox. I need to understand which mailbox we need to focus on and how it's actually being done. Right? Where's the data stemming into? How's it being taken from? Because we have to give data. We have to give like the country, the people, the number of people, and the date range. And then that needs to be consumed and processed on the API side, Lite API side, and then provided back to us. Okay, so you can see here it's saying API endpoint for hotel search. The correct endpoint for searching hotels and dates and availability is the post/v30 hotels rates. The endpoint requires these mandatory parameters, all of that information, and these optional parameters. Now let me create the backend endpoint and update it to the front end. So it's specifying what do we need to provide into that endpoint in order for information to be processed in order to give us a valid response back. Now you can see it says, now let me update the home screen to use the real API instead of the mock data. And that's what we're trying to do, use the API to use real data instead of the mocked up data, because that really brings our app to life. And it's a super complex but very vital component. Okay, so now it says summary. I've connected your home screen to the Lite API and set up the hotel search functionality. Here's what's been implemented. API endpoint used, post v30 hotels rates. This is the correct endpoint for searching hotels. Required parameters, occupancy, currency, guest nationality, check-in, check-out. Backend implementation. So it's created a backend implementation that allows us to actually consume that data. Front-end updates are some updates in order to validate that. So like formatting the dates into the correct format. So we don't want to give it in the incorrect format, else it's not going to work. And then how to test. Make sure your Lite API key environment variable is set. It is. Fill in the search form on the home screen, location, dates, guests, click search hotels. It will be taken to the search results page showing the hotels from the Lite API. So let's see how well this goes. All right, so let's go ahead. We go New York, go for the one night, we go for 2 guests, 1 room. That's so. Okay, so it now brings us up with these 3 accommodations, but I doubt this is actually correct. Okay, so that doesn't seem to be working. So let's try and say, when I click on search, it does not display API data, still showing mock data. Something as simple as that would just give enough information. So I'll see why both API and mock data are being displayed. Let me examine the search results page and the search functionality. Okay, so let's try this again. New York, let's search. There we go. Okay, so now we've got more places. We've got Spring Hill Suites by the Marriott. We've got the Hampton Inn. We've got the Courtyard by the Marriott in New York, and so forth. And that's exactly what we were after with the API connection. I think another thing to keep in mind, guys, is if you do struggle, head over to Lite API, get started with the Lite API, and literally copy and paste this entire link in and just say, please utilize the content within this website, and because then it will bring in all the latest information that Lite API has. because it's also obviously doing its own external searches, and you can kind of direct it specifically towards the API connection. But yeah, we can actually use some real data within our application now, which is awesome. Alrighty, so last but not least is actually to publish. We've got our preview link, but to publish to our App Store, we're going to go ahead and click Publish to App Store. And over here, you can go and click New Submission. Again, you can go, basically what you need to do is sign up for a membership, so an Apple developer membership. So you need an active Apple developer account to publish to the App Store. Memberships cost $99 a year, so that is something to consider. So if you want to sign up, you click Sign Up. You put in your developer email and password. You then go to Expo, you create an account there, you fill in all your app information, and you submit directly from Rork. And it's that easy, guys. All you need is that membership. There's no two ways around that. It's just, it is $99 a year. So if you do want to launch your application, you have to consider that as a cost. But then, yeah, you'll basically go through a review process. And if they reject your app, you can fix some things. And what's easy with that is if they give you stuff to fix, you can come back to Rork, and you can just basically say, these are the things I need to fix, and you can use AI to help you can basically fix those items, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much how you publish to the App Store and launch your mobile application that you build completely with artificial intelligence.